Hey, good morning. I'm just going to allow for about 30 seconds to let everyone in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so good morning. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Joanne Wong. I'm Director of Corporate Services at the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council. And today we have how to do business with Pfizer. So we have the team from Pfizer, Colleen Masha and Chris Latini, Bea Vargas and Bob Napoli, who will describe the procurement process and supplier diversity program at Pfizer. So I just want to start first by saying thank you so much to Pfizer for being a bronze level annual sponsor. Annual sponsors are really critical in helping with our MBE programming, and we can't do this work without you. So thank you so much. And then just a few housekeeping items. So we are recording this session. We do have a large number of attendees, and so we will have ample time for Q&A. Please use the raise hand function, and I'll go over this again when it is time for Q&A, just so that you can ask your question fully directly to the team at Pfizer. And with that, I will turn it over.
All right, great. Thank you, Joanne. And thank you, Greater New England Group. Maybe you're having an early lunch right now. Here's a couple of items that we'd like to walk you through. So as Joanne said, I have 3 of my colleagues here today. We'll give you a high-level overview about what we're up to with supplier diversity at Pfizer. And then hopefully the value here today is just a little bit of a deep dive on a couple of categories that we source. So my name's Colleen Masha, and I lead supplier diversity efforts at Pfizer. And I work with great colleagues in the organization, like the ones on the slide here today, that are true champions for supplier diversity efforts and always willing to connect with some of our diverse suppliers. So I'll let them introduce themselves as they get to their part of the presentation. So I just wanted to share, supplier diversity at Pfizer has been around for about 20 years, and we've really evolved from a program of compliance to one of empowerment, what we like to say, for our diverse suppliers. We did have, at Pfizer, we do have breakthrough goals, and we had a breakthrough goal tasked to our program. It was a 5-year goal that I'm happy to report we delivered at the end of last year, so it was 2 years early. But it was to increase our spend with diverse suppliers by 50% by 2025. That was a heavy lift for us, and we're hoping and focusing on sustaining that moving forward. Also, as a company that bids on government contracts, we do have a commitment to our investment in small business. We're happy to say that we delivered that in 2022. And what's really important for our program is that we are embedded into enterprise strategies at Pfizer. So, that's how I recognize from my peers programs that are, best in class. They do have connections to enterprise strategy. So for our diversity, equity, and inclusion enterprise strategy, supplier diversity falls under pillar number 3, which is to transform society by building external relationships. So I like to put that there because it's a great way for me to talk to colleagues in the organization. It's a really nice foundation to say, supplier diversity is, on an enterprise level. And what's very important is that our business units have also supplier diversity goals, which has been breakthrough for us. That's really new from, I guess it was a year and a half ago. So it's not standardized across our business units, but we did have 2 very brave business units come forward and put supplier diversity spend goals in their programs for the year. And those were met. I'll say Bob works in the digital group, and they were really one of the partners that did that for us. We've also won a couple of awards recently, and we do take our corporate responsibility as partners in these advocacy groups seriously. We try to rise to the occasion, do some outreach, and do some programming. So like I said, we hope that you find some value as you took time out of your day today. And this is how we do it. So, I did chat with you about the targets. So, supplier diversity has targets, our sourcing colleagues have targets, and our business units are getting there. Inclusive sourcing. So, right now when there's an RFP out for bid, we do have a corporate policy that supports inclusive sourcing. So we really do try to work to make sure that we have a small, diverse business in those RFPs. As we know, there's not always the right talent at the right time, but that is supported, like I said, by a corporate policy internally. We do mentorship. So we have a program, but it's not standalone. We are by no means an Accenture or a P&G, but we do mentorship small and diverse suppliers. Our best way that we do that right now is by partnering with our advocacy groups, and we get matched to a partner. So once that's in place, I work to facilitate those mentorships and reach into the experts within Pfizer and also within our Pfizer network to bring in expertise that would progress our diverse supplier mentee goals. Data integrity, again, as I mentioned, we do report our investment in small business to the government. So it's really important for us to have the most accurate data we can. We do have an annual self-certification process, which I'm sure this audience is getting forms from all your big clients to, asking you to tell us how you classify yourself, if you classify yourself. And it is important, like I said, because we need to be ready for an auditable process with the government. We do awareness. So we do a lot of, just as we're doing some education here today, we do that internally on our supplier diversity program. So we do that through town halls, through stakeholder meetings. We're working on updating our e-learning module, but it's really to amplify the importance of supplier diversity and why we do it at Pfizer. I did skip over connections because that's really why we're here today. Right now, I know probably the biggest reason why you've jumped on this call is to find out, how does Pfizer source? And, there's no one clear path, as you probably hear a lot of times from some of the other presentations from the corporates. But, I'm here to tell you that it's really around the connection. So we do a lot of outreach, like programs like this. We go to the conferences. I do try to follow up. Be patient with me, but I do try to do the follow-up with any outreach that I get from diverse suppliers. Right now, we don't have a portal, and we're working through potential partner to help us with that. And I just want to be able to assure our, diverse suppliers that when we do have a place that we ask you to put your information, that it's dynamic. So you can be assured when you do put your profile in there, somebody on the Pfizer side is going to review it and think about it. In the past we have had a portal, but it wasn't being used the way it should. So we're being very thoughtful about how we put something like that forward. So in the meantime, I have my information on the last slide. You can reach out to me. And typically what I'll do is pass your information along to, I start with my sourcing colleague, somebody who has more functional knowledge on the capabilities that your firm is offering, and we take it from there. So we have had some success stories recently, but it does take time. It's really around getting to know the right people at Pfizer and timing, when those opportunities pop up, which that's not all fully in your control, but you can reach out and you can foster the relationships that you think are valuable to your company. So I believe, we're going to move on to the category overviews right now. And Chris, you are up first.
Thanks, Colleen. Just want to introduce myself, Chris Latini. I'm based out of our New Jersey facility in PPAC. Happy to be joining you today. I support the rigid plastic packaging category. And what this entails is, I just want to preface it by saying it's the primary packaging that touches our drug product. So a lot of times I get questions about, for supplier diversity, does this include paper cartons and packages that the things go into? That would be considered secondary packaging. And if your company does that, you can certainly reach out to me, but I'll probably direct you to one of our site colleagues who source that. So I source the rigid plastic packaging that touches the drug product manufactured at our global facilities. So we support about 600 million components annually at a budget of over $45 million of spend. Some key components include plastic bottles, plastic closures, and delivery devices that support our sterile injectables, our small molecule products, and our biotech businesses. A little bit about the sourcing process. So we typically use an Ariba e-sourcing process for RFIs. What we would do is work with our technical engineering team and our stakeholders to understand who are our preferred suppliers in this space. So we look at the list of strategic suppliers, we see what sort of component is needed and whether they can fit that. Or, we look at our our diverse supplier base, and when there's an area of opportunity to include a diverse supplier, we certainly do so. Once we identify the conditionally awarded supplier, we will award supply and go through a site audit and qualification of that supplier site. And then a master supply agreement will typically follow. We then go through, depending on the amount of spend with the supplier, an annual supplier relationship management review based on the tier of spend that you support. So just wanted to give a little example of a success story that we've recently had. And for New England, we have a site based out of Andover that's one of our biotech facilities. So I'd imagine any packaging support we would need would be out of that facility. We tend to source components that are local to our manufacturing sites. As well, we have a facility, an R&D facility in Groton, Connecticut, that would also be in that New England footprint. So we were notified by our supplier diversity team of a supplier based in North Carolina near one of our manufacturing sites. The minority-owned business presented their capabilities to my stakeholders, and we included them in the RFP for a sterile injectable component that was used. And they were the successful bidder on this RFP. So now we're working on that supplier to qualify them. We've conducted a site audit, and they're currently ramping up for commercial production on that component. On the bottom of the page, you'll see some of the products that we're sourcing out of this space. As I mentioned, it's primary packaging components, so the ones that touch the drug products, mainly for our hospital business. On the left table, you'll see Abiject, Advantage, Answer. These components can all be found on PfizerInjectables.com. So that you can understand what type of plastic we're sourcing. And then on the right table, you'll see our typical small molecule business, your bottles and closures that you're familiar with in your home and that you get from your local pharmacy, as well as plastic vials that support our vaccine business, and then tooling and custom equipment. So we also do source the tooling that makes these plastic components. So if your company is a tool maker, you can also certainly have an opportunity within our company. So with that, I'll turn it over to the next category strategy manager. And thanks for your time, and I welcome any questions you may have.
All right, Bob.
Great, thanks, Colleen, and thank you everybody for joining today. So first, I want to say Colleen was being a little modest earlier about the digital group and organization, how they've adopted kind of an alignment with us on supplier diversity. A lot of that was due to a lot of heavy lifting by Colleen, but there truly is. I've been at Pfizer over 16 years, supporting our technology organization that whole time, and I've seen the evolution. From more of a, where we were raising awareness and kind of pushing the idea on our digital organization to where they're coming to us as a valued partner to say, how do we do more of this? So it's a great story, and Colleen needs to take a bow for that. But having said that, I'll go through this slide. I think Chris has done a really good job of walking through the processes, and they don't differ terribly from a sourcing perspective between the packaging category Chris covers and digital, right? We run sourcing events through Ariba. We put agreements in place with vendors we're going to do business with, right? All fairly standard. What I do want to talk a little bit about is how I see most of the diverse provider relationships I've been involved in kind of starting and evolving, right? And they could be through an e-sourcing event, but typically what we're seeing, right, is smaller engagements, right? Smaller engagements to allow a new provider who may be, a smaller provider, although some of you folks I'm sure are larger in size, to have an exposure within Pfizer and to build trust, right? And to me, that's a key. And this probably isn't just, it definitely isn't just within Pfizer, right? I think any company you're doing business with, what I encourage all new suppliers, but particularly our diverse supplier base, is to think about what it is you do really, really well, right? And then hopefully we can find a match within Pfizer for a need in the area that you do really, really well, because the worst thing that can happen, right, is for a new relationship is for somebody to take a stab at something perhaps it's not their strong suit, right, and the initial engagement doesn't go well, and unfortunately that can kind of end a relationship before it really has a chance to flourish. But what I found most of the diverse suppliers I deal with are good at is understanding, having some self-awareness to say, you know what, there's an opportunity there, but that's not the right one for us, right? So I encourage all of you to think about that, right? And think about, we want to do business with Pfizer, but we want to do the right business with Pfizer and make sure it's right for us and right for you folks. The other thing I emphasize is Pfizer's a really big, complex company, right? And part of that means that the process can probably be slower. One of the benefits I find in dealing with diverse suppliers is you're typically, perhaps more agile than Pfizer is, right? You tend to be smaller organizations. You bring a new way of looking at things, but while it can be a little frustrating, I think at times dealing with Pfizer, and I'm sure this goes for all the other large companies you deal with, patience is key, right? The process can be long and it can be drawn out, right? But in the end, it can certainly be worth it. But yeah, so some of the key categories that I'm involved in, or our team's involved in, I'm part of a small team that supports our digital organization, or the traditional technology categories you probably see with your other customers, right? Your software and software as a service. I tend not to find a lot of diverse supplier opportunities in that space, but where I do see them more often is that next category you see on the slide, and that's the consulting services, right? We see, we've brought suppliers on board who've certainly brought value to us in that space, and that's where I tend to see the largest volume. And then as a subcategory of that space is the machine learning and artificial intelligence, right? That is certainly a growing technology within Pfizer, right? We're really starting to lean into that going forward. So that is a space that there potentially could be opportunities for going forward. It's we've been probably in the AI space in earnest for over 5 years or so. I'd say maybe even a little longer, but it's really evolving so quickly now. So that's an area where we're starting to see opportunity, and hopefully there's some potential matches over there. So the way back to some of the things I was talking about earlier, the way I see the relationships evolving are typically, as Colleen indicated, right? You folks will find your way into our supply diversity team, and Colleen, you and your team do a nice job. And I say team generously. I know you're doing a lot of that yourself, but I do a nice job of vetting some of these providers. And then what I try to do is determine is based on your capabilities, are there needs that are unmet within Pfizer where it makes sense to make an introduction, right? So not so much a formal sourcing process, right, for a specific requirement, but perhaps a meeting with a Pfizer digital colleague who oversees an area you have expertise in, to say, hey, here's a potential supplier for us. Here's what they can do, and let you folks present yourselves, and if they say, yeah, this is somebody we really want to keep in mind, great. And if not, at least we've pursued that path. That's typically how I'm seeing these relationships get started, right? I try to, and I'll use the word protect. I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but I try to protect my digital clients from being inundated with suppliers, all who have very good capabilities, because they've got important jobs to do, right? And it'll kind of get lost. It'll get lost on them if there's not some sort of more formal introduction. And that's the role I and my colleagues in the digital sourcing team try to play, is to be that intermediary that kind of brokers the discussion and hopefully the building of a relationship that can yield future business for you folks. So I think that was most of what I wanted to cover. As Chris said, if you have questions at the end, I'm happy to try to answer them, or if there's follow-up questions, I'm sure Colleen will feed them through to the appropriate team members.
All right, thank you, Bob. And Bea, I'm going to stop sharing, and you can put up your slide.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Colleen, and thank you, Greater New England, for your participation and having us today. My name is Beatrice Vargas. I've been at Pfizer for 5 years. Prior to that, I used to be a consultant. I started with the big 4 firms, and then I became a mother. So I became a woman-owned business, LLC, for 13 years. So I'm a big advocate for these initiatives at Pfizer. And I know both sides of the negotiation table pretty well, so I'm here for you. And I added more categories to my slide today. That's why I ended up having to show my screen. My team really manages a lot of the categories that are gigantic at Pfizer, starting with legal services, consulting, talent acquisition, translations, benefits.
Bea, I hate to interrupt. Would you mind putting it in presentation mode, that one slide?
Yeah, I was trying to avoid that because of the script. It's
okay.
It's okay. Whatever works for the audience better. So you see, it starts writing what I say. Okay, never mind. So some of the these are really some of the most difficult categories. We're trying to make more get more traction on the tier 1 spend, because a lot of it, for instance, temp labor. I'm just going to pick some of them. We have, large MSP programs. We hire a lot of talent that is helping us in the production lines, and they are, through large conglomerate of suppliers such as Manpower, Adecco, Randstad. So we do have them funneling diverse spend through those vendors. So those are part of our large, tier 2 spend in diversity. In talent acquisition, we have staff augmentation, contingent labor. We have so many in Puerto Rico and the US, so my team covers most of the US and Puerto Rico. Now the translation business, which covers all of our products and everything that is translated at Pfizer. They just recently ran an RFX to explore ways of sourcing translation, and they added an MSP to a diverse supplier that is entering this for the first time. So we are continuing to get traction and trying to find more ways of consolidating that diverse and channeling diverse spend through some of these areas of sourcing, so people can have higher, quicker, faster, agile access, which is the new way of doing business. I mean, as it's been said already by my teammates, we are in a very agile environment. On the legal services, we also have what is called the Pfizer Legal Alliance. We do have also many diverse legal firms through the Pfizer Legal Alliance. And benefits, you can imagine there's just like, less than a handful of benefit providers that can attend a Pfizer account or any Fortune 100 account. I mean, we're 90,000 employees, so we do tend to gravitate towards the larger benefits providers. So now that I have been managing that category for the past 18 months, I have found it very, very difficult to really incubate any diverse vendor there. But on the consulting area, on the other side, I did want to share an anecdotally, what has been happening over the past 5 years. What I have observed at Pfizer is that some of these really good strategic, pharma consulting firms that are diverse or women-owned, for instance, I have seen them continue to work and win work against, the Economist, which is a large, very strategic organization. And not only were they retained by Sally Sussman in our corporate affairs, they just continue to shepherd more and more work across the world with Pfizer. So once they hit a good audience, then the word gets spread at Pfizer. And as I was continuing to see them grow, we ended up having them talk to one of our larger suppliers. And right now they're signing an agreement to go to market for Pfizer with Accenture. So that is kind of like one of the journeys that we're trying to progress these small vendors. So because we understand that as a small business, like for instance, I couldn't do a bid on a large project at Pfizer because I was a one-woman show. So we do try to understand that some of these firms are seeking, there's another firm that specializes in project management. So they could go, and do an agreement with a large firm like PricewaterhouseCoopers that does a lot of big, global projects at Pfizer. And so they were really strong with all the other business units. So we had them participate as co-primaries in some of the RFX processes. So those are some of the ways that we're trying to just kind of like, it's almost like incubating and then putting them together with the large organizations that are willing to participate in those type of arrangements. But they do give a lot of very good visibility at Pfizer. But it's just, again, it's trying to be very innovative and just trying to think of new ways of bringing in the talent in such a difficult category, because again, Pfizer is just like another large corporation. I mean, big pharma companies have 100,000 plus employees, and it's just so difficult to source ones on a smaller scale. However, we do have a lot of like a long tail of diverse vendors that are in different business units. And as soon as we see them grow in number of purchase orders, in number of projects, then we start investigating and we help them continue to evolve. And some of these vendors have done metastatic breast cancer patient journeys in Colombia, in Costa Rica, and like some of these vendors have helped us in rare diseases, and they do collaborate in the new product launches. So there's, if the opportunities are there, we will do our dearest to find them and to collaborate and try to put you in front of our stakeholders. So again, in any of these categories, it's really difficult because we're a large corporation and we tend to buy them in large proportions. But we do have mechanisms that we're trying to implement and continue to improve upon or sharpen so we can continue to get traction in this area at Pfizer. As far as the process is just no different than what's been said. We're a large corporation, we're highly regulated, so we do run RFPs and everyone has to participate and compete under the compliant ways that we have defined as a corporation. And yeah, we just, like I mentioned before, we establish close partnerships with our strategic vendors, because they can also help us help the smaller diverse vendors. And we also develop strategic alliances with our business units so we can better understand what their business needs are and how we can incorporate some of these talent that we get through the diverse pipeline. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Bea. So I'll just put up just the last slide, is for Q&A, and I have my.
How do I pass the baton back to you, Colleen?
I think I could just grab it. Yeah, so let me go back here. Yeah, so I think
you're muted.
Oh, am I muted? Oh, I don't see, you can't hear me?
I hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'll leave this slide up, Joanne, and that was really our presentation today, but you know, we're happy to try to answer questions for the audience.
All right, thank you so much. So as I mentioned, we'd love to hear from you directly. So if you can please use the raise hand function, and then we will give you the go ahead to ask your question directly. I know that sometimes you're in an environment where you can't ask directly, and so go ahead and put it in the Q&A box, but make sure that it's a fully formed question, so there's no going back and forth to try and get some more context. So I'm going to start with Deborah Jean. And if you could just unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, how are you? So my name is Deborah. I own Muscle Therapy Wellness Lounge in North Haven, Connecticut. And my question, I'm not sure if it would relate or anything, but I was just wondering, because when I forgot his name, the man that spoke earlier mentioned, you know, anyone that has any kind of question. So I was wondering if you guys would be open to doing like a corporate wellness for like chair massage or pain management or anything like that.
Yeah, so I can just offer, so the Pfizer headquarters has been in Midtown for I think like 70 years or something. We just moved over to Hudson Yard. So I can tell you that they're really trying to engage the colleagues, especially trying to get people back to sites. So, you know, I would say that's a possibility, Deborah, if you want to just grab my contact information and pass that along. That's my one thought. If anybody else has any other ideas on the call.
Okay. So for my company, we do like stretching, chair massage, and we use different tools for like pain management. So we would come to them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So let's, would you ever like, you know, come to a site and, you know, our colleagues could make appointments, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good to know.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Okay, and now we have Windsor Cho. Can you please unmute?
Okay, yeah, my name is Windsor and I'm Principal of Strategy and Innovations. And I'm interested in these consulting services. How do we get in contact with people so we can have more of a dialogue?
Yeah, Windsor, if you would like to, you know, if you'd like to send your contact information, your capabilities to me, I'll work with Bea to figure out who's the best person on her team that can review that. And, you know, I'm sure we could probably get, you know, we could work to connect you with a call if it makes sense, if your capabilities are, you know, something that we're looking for right now.
Yeah, looking at the slide that Beatrice had, there's a need for consulting services relative to strategy, marketing, organization, and operations, as well as technology. I'm a ChemE with over 30 years experience in high-tech industries, so been through a lot of functional roles, and if there's a need, I may be able to help then. And so that's really where I am. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, send it on over. That would be
Should
great.
I send it to you, Colleen, or should I send it to?
Yeah, if you can send it to me, because I have my own sort of methodology on keeping track of the capabilities presentations I receive from our outreach. And then my role is to pass it along. I would probably start with Bea or somebody on our team.
Okay, great. I didn't see your email though.
Oh, can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's on the last slide, Windsor.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
And
I'll
there's
also
no,
put it in the chat.
and there's no video as well. Is that correct, or was it on my? Okay,
I am showing a slide, I think, am I not?
Yeah,
okay,
Okay,
okay, there it is. Sorry about that. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
thank you, Windsor.
Thank you, Colleen.
all right, let's move on to Melinda McVie. Melinda, can you unmute, please? Melinda? All right, let's scooch down to Frank Gomes. Frank, can you unmute, please?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great, great. Thanks, everyone. And it's a great presentation. Thanks for your time. I think this question is more for Bob. My question is in regard to getting more calls answered with call branding. When Pfizer reaches out to, say, a consumer or a contact or whatever, the Pfizer name and logo shows up on the cell phone. Because there's a problem that's happening where calls are getting either spammed or what have you, and they're marked and people are not picking up calls. So I'd like to know who I can talk to in regards to that. I think Pfizer RX Pathways would definitely have a need for that, or anything in your call center where they do callbacks, or if you do any type of studies with clients that you need to interact with them. That's an area that we can add definitely some quick value there.
Yeah, Frank, if you could send to poor Colleen, right? But send to Colleen a kind of a summary of the capabilities you're talking about, right? And then between Colleen and I, we'll try to make the right connection with the appropriate point of contact at Pfizer who can evaluate that and determine if there's an unmet need there.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. All right, Melinda, are you able to unmute? All right, let's move over to Claudel Jean-Louis. Claudel, can you unmute?
Yes, I unmuted. Thank you, everyone, for this presentation. It's great to see that Pfizer's is doing a direct focus on small businesses and minority businesses. My business is called System Custom Consultants. We're an IT management consulting company here in Boston. And it sounds like, Colleen, you'll be the direct person that we would funnel our capability statement, and then you would share that over to Robert, who's on the call. Is that the case? Just to make sure I got that correct.
Yeah, that would be great. Like I said, I have my own little methodology where I do track everything, I log everything. But if you could send that to me, but if in your email, if you could write that you'd like to be connected with Bob, that'll help move it along.
Bob. Got it. And I have one additional question. If I could also share, we usually have a list of questions that we come with our customers to say, for example, how is Pfizer organized as an IT company? And I don't know if I could share those questions so I can have a better idea if we could actually help you guys and the vice versa, right? I don't want to put us in a position where it doesn't make sense. So I can
Absolutely.
also.
Yep. Yeah, Claudia, whatever information you can share that you think could be helpful in us, A, understanding your capabilities, and B, understanding, like you say, if there's a potential match in terms of and
Right.
to the extent I can give you some insight into how Pfizer's structured to help that, I'm happy to try to do that.
Okay, excellent. That's all my questions. Appreciate you, Bob, and Colleen, and everyone on the call for putting this together.
And you know what, you raise a good point, Claudel, because what I would also counsel, so if you, we're helping each other. If you can say, hey, listen, I've been thinking about Pfizer, and maybe you were talking about perhaps we're missing out on Pfizer's name being on, a phone call. That's very specific. So if you can say, I've been thinking about Pfizer, and I think, perhaps you're missing an opportunity here, not asking for any free ideas, but if it just helps us move it along to the right people, or it's also a nice hook, right? If you say,
Absolutely.
I was at a conference and I think, I think Pfizer's missing an opportunity in this area, or, maybe if it's around the marketing, that's a nice hook to send to our business stakeholder to perhaps spark a conversation. So
Yeah, that's my sales pitch, Colleen, and you're
Yeah.
doing it right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Is to say, hey, these are my top 10 questions, right?
Yeah.
I know Pfizer may be lacking in these areas, and I'm only simply saying this because we work with large organizations, and I'll just say their names: Science, Boston Scientific, State Street, right? And we see those similarities, and Pfizer may have these similarities. So I'll send these top 10. I'll send my capability statement with the hope that it sparks an interest with someone at the organization. Thank you, Colleen.
I think that's great. Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay, let's move to Angelique Alvarez. Angelique?
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this opportunity. Angelique Alvarez, I lead diversity at ATR. We are a large woman-owned staffing company headquartered in California, but we are nationally based. And so I'd like to just learn a little bit more. I believe this would be for Beatrice. I will be at WeBank, so I'd love an opportunity to connect in person if possible. I understand that you do work with MSPs. So my question today, and hopefully this would apply to anyone else who may be interested, as far as the MSPs for Manpower, Adecco, Randstad, what staffing lines of business go through those? Would this be a conversation we can have? And who owns a relationship? Would I have an opportunity to connect with Beatrice, and then she would potentially, if a fit, refer me to those program managers, or would I be reaching out to those MSPs directly? Thank you so much.
That's a great question. And we don't need to wait until WeBank. You can get a hold of me through Colleen. The colleague in my team who I'm constantly in communication with, he would be the one to better answer those specific questions as to how to get you through our MSPs, or we even have something called Pfizer Works. So there are so many mechanisms, and it's just a one-on-one discussion that we would have to have. It's just too long of an answer for me to start going through the different channels at Pfizer. But yeah, I would be honored and happy. I mean, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to go to WeBank, but again, if you go and I go, then that will be even better. But yeah, for sure, just Colleen is really our liaison, and then we always try to channel the business needs and try to connect the business needs with the offerings that you guys have for us. And so we will always try to figure out which stakeholder to connect you with and how to make it work. And again, there has to be a business need connected to all of these. So yeah, absolutely, it would be a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you so much. I will send a message to Colleen. I'll be extremely thorough so that I can save any extra work. So thank you so much. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, Angelique. And Frank O'Donnell. Frank, can you unmute, please?
Yeah, just did. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Yes.
Excellent. So I think Angelique probably answered some of our questions, but Colleen, Chris, Bob, and Beatrice, I appreciate your time. Super helpful. I'm one of the executives over at a company called Mission First, and we are also a woman-owned small business. But I think a little bit unique in the perspective that we specialize a lot in hiring veterans. I'd say 80% of the people that we've hired over the last 5 or 6 years are military veterans. And that certainly has been kind of a niche that we've been able to fill. And, I listened to Bob's presentation, and certainly a lot of it resonated with us. We have a large contract that we're part of here in the state of Massachusetts, where we provide business analysts and project managers, IT and cloud project managers to the state of Massachusetts through a large prime contract services vehicle. Then we also support the nation's largest DoD funded research laboratory to provide a wide range of AI, ML, DevOps, and engineering support to a number of different groups within the laboratory. So I think we bring a lot to the table, and we actually had kind of a unique situation. I think it was after I had actually signed up for this meeting, I actually happened to have a conversation with a Pfizer manager, and he had approached me because he knew that what we did. And he said, I'm having a real hard time hiring in my group. And we sat down and had a couple of conversations, and then he actually took it upon himself to send a note into Pfizer saying, hey, I'd like to introduce this, this small business to Pfizer to see if there's a way that we can work together. And that just happened in the last week or so, but there hasn't been any follow-up from there. So I guess maybe Colleen, it sounds like, should I filter my kind of message through you? Because I certainly felt I could, I certainly, Bob's messages resonated. It's a lot of the work that we're doing now for multiple customers. Beatrice, obviously, as well, whether it be on the talent acquisition or temp labor, all things that we do as well from a nationwide perspective. So I certainly feel that we have something to offer, as a potential vendor. I just wanted to kind of know best path forward. And it sounds like it may be. And Bob, I sent you a linked invite. Beatrice, I sent you one last week. And I may have sent one to Colleen as well, I believe.
Yeah, Frank, so definitely send it over. And if you could include the Pfizer manager, if you know who that name is it me? I'm not sure.
No, it's actually a hiring manager, someone that actually needs to hire staff right now.
That's perfect. So I'm here to connect the dots.
That's perfect.
I try to do it in a timely way. But yeah, if you could send that over, we could get it started there, and I'll share with Bob and Beatrice as well.
That's awesome. I appreciate everyone's time today. It was super helpful. Took a bunch of notes. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Ernie Nieves, can you unmute, please? Ernie? All right, let's move to Antonio Rodriguez.
Joanne, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Is this Ernie?
Yeah,
Or-
it's me.
Oh, hi, great.
A little technical difficulty there. Sorry about that. Well, thank you for having this conversation and this showing Joanne, Colleen, and the team. Very impressed with the Pfizer process. I am Ernie. I am a business owner certified MBE for Nieves Hospitality, and we manage food services such as cafeteria, catering. We also own a fleet of food trucks, and we provide food truck services. We are headquartered in Connecticut. And so my question is, I think through the process, I understand that send Colleen a capability statement, and I plan to do that. But I have a bigger question in terms of, I understand in food services, Pfizer has a contract with a large national organization. I was wondering what type of considerations, of course, with the supply diversity focus and goals that I heard on the call today, what type of considerations are given to a small business owner that may be local, may not be able to compete with this national supplier, but how do we earn an opportunity to do business anyway?
Yeah, great question. And I didn't talk about our tier 2 program, but we do have that in place. So a lot of the large primes that we do work with, there's an expectation that we will have, monies spent that they're subcontracting will go to small diverse suppliers. We're not consistent in our goals with those suppliers, but we do have goals with some of them, I'll say. And then specifically for you, Ernie, I think, that could be, my thought, what I jotted down here is really to, I have a group of colleagues, my site leads that I connect to. And like I shared before, we're trying to get colleague engagement around the sites again. So is that something like you could bring your food truck service perhaps to some of our local sites?
Absolutely. I would love to do that.
Yeah, so let me be thoughtful about that. Like I said, I have my contacts who do that type of engagement. And then the second question around tier 2, I could pose to somebody else to, we do have a national contract, but I believe the sites also have some ownership on how we're doing our food and beverage service for sites. So I'll do a little homework there, but if you could reach out to me, that would be great.
That'd be awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And I saw Melinda, it looks like you were off mute.
Oh, great. Melinda?
Oh, maybe not.
Okay. Antonio Rodriguez.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for your presentation this morning. My name is Tony Rodriguez, and I'm the principal of Daniel Penn Associates, an operational consultancy group. We've done work for Pfizer in the past, and has sort of been plant specific, specifically as it relates to implementing reliability center maintenance programs to improve equipment, overall effectiveness and reliability. And yet, and these projects have been successful, but we have not been able to really expand it much more throughout Pfizer. Any suggestions?
It's
So
nice to
I'm,
hear from you,
so
Tony.
it sounds like you did a great job, but we
Yes.
don't want unreliable equipment. But
We
no,
have been, and we've done also a project where Pfizer had been issue a warning letter, and we have come in and supported improvement in their asset management and documentation requirements.
yes, those are very common in PGS. I'll let Bob go ahead if you have.
Yeah, no, my only thought would be, if this, and this doesn't fall in under my remit, but if it did, I'd suggest if you could send, to Colleen once again, right, a summary of your company with specific information about the engagements you're referring to, and any Pfizer contacts you work with on those engagements, so the
Sure.
appropriate Pfizer sourcing colleague could reach out and say, hey, we've been in touch with you, and is there, because quite frankly, I'm sure if there was something positive or negative that were going on that were impacting you doing business with Pfizer, you'd want to know anyway. So we'll try to make those connections for you, so we can either figure out if there's just if you've fallen off the radar for some reason, or some other reason why this isn't happening, or if there's maybe another driver behind it. But yeah, if you could send that information along,
Okay.
Colleen can help make the connection to the appropriate sourcing colleague.
Yep,
Thank
that
you.
would be great.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let's move to Galea. Galea? Oh, disappeared. Okay, Randy Fling. Randy, can you unmute?
There we go. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you all for your time as well today, as everyone has said, and I apologize, I missed some of the presentation. So my question is, we've done some business with Pfizer through their ad agency. I'm an executive at Rolling Out. It's an urban style weekly. We did do business through an agency, and they did a digital buy with us. We started as a newspaper about 24 years ago, so we have print and digital. But we also have a PR business as well as a video production business that we normally work with a lot of our national clients on creating content, to be spread virally or through paid social or through, a number of means. And so I was concerned if Colleen would still be the right person, or if there's anybody else that I missed that might be a direct contact for any PR services or video and content creation services that we provide.
Randy, I would be, and I'd be interested in your video production services. Just conversation I was having with somebody here the other day. So that would be really great. I can just share with you, our largely our marketing agencies, which would encompass PR work, is going through a transformation right now. So it might be a little tough to connect some dots there right now. Probably, after May would be better. But definitely, if you could reach out, and like I said, I'm interested in actually, the two things, what we had engaged you with previously would be great to know. If maybe you could just give a little, couple business case on that, as well as your video production.
That was through an agency. It was a programmatic buy for,
Sure.
Six for Paxlovid and, about 4 different products.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. All right, let's, Galea is back. So can you unmute, please?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. It was very informative. To introduce myself, my partner and I own this company called Her Data Factory. It's based in Boston. So basically what we do is we do consultancy on specifically on Microsoft Azure Cloud Computing Services. And what makes us different is we are more than ready to help minority women attain accessible success in data and AI careers. So we are new. So I'm just wondering how we can put value and help you guys work with Pfizer as a new company. What are the ways of, or if there's any specific program in Pfizer to help women achieve success in AI and data careers? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think the answer will be similar to some of the other answers you've probably just heard, right? If you can put together a summary of your company's capabilities and how you think they can help Pfizer and how similar companies are leveraging your services, and send that along to Colleen, she'll likely engage. It'll probably be me, and we'll look at that and see if if I have more questions or if I think there's a a potential match there. We'll try to get things moving.
And Galea, one more thought on that too is, I work with our colleague resource groups internally. So, perhaps there's some sort of connection that we could think about with our women's group. So maybe just in your email, think about it from that perspective as well. And I know we are at time.
Yeah, so there is one more question. Cody, I don't know if you want to take it or we can just put the questions in an email directly to you, Colleen, for you to answer, but I know that we are at time right now.
Yeah, I can stay on for another minute. I just wanted to be just for the group.
Cody's gone.
Feel free to answer.
All right, well, looks like all hands are lowered now. So if you do have any questions, please direct them to Colleen, who shared her email address. And thank you so much, Colleen, Chris, Bea, and Robert, for your time today. Thank you for your support of minority-owned businesses. And we truly appreciate you providing this overview of the supplier diversity process at Pfizer. So as I mentioned, if you have any further questions, send them directly to Colleen. And again, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for having us. Have a great day.